wanted to use this opportunity as the last event for us for the year to say a thank you on behalf of the DocEdge team to you and everyone who was part of DocEdge this year. We had our best edition of DocEdge this year in May, June in Auckland and Wellington, the festival, of course, as well as the forum, the exhibition, and all the other wonderful things that we went through this year. So thank you for being part of it to some of you, and as the audience or as participants. Also, we are working already on the 15th edition of the festival next year, and submissions are open. I'm sure you're all aware of that. The deadlines, there is a regular deadline at the end of the year on the 31st of December, and the final late deadline of 15 January. So you can submit your films by those deadlines. And the other exciting news is that if you have rough cuts that you can submit to us during that period, and there is an interest of DocEdge to select your films, there is an opportunity to get finishing funds from the New Zealand Film Commission. So there is a bit of a process to go through, obviously looking at the rough cuts, talking to you, and sending the information and giving you the support.
Just quickly about the session, we want this to be, this is for you guys, this is like accessible and inclusive of everybody. Everybody maybe have like different experience levels, and we just want to be respectful of that. But this is a resource for you guys, so please, like, we'll just have a discussion about stuff. But if there's questions that you want to answer or something comes up that's relevant to your films, please just raise your hand at any time. You know, there's no bad questions. Like, everything's open on the table. If you want to tell us a little bit about the film that you're working on, just to give us a bit of context, like, please do so.
So I've only been in New Zealand for just over a year. Used to work in the UK for 20 years, and that's when I met my Kiwi husband, hence I'm here now. But my experience comes from mainly film finance and film sales, working at HanWay Films for 6.5 years while I was there, and then following that working for another 6 years for another sales company called Mr. Smith. So I guess that's my kind of big major experience. I've been on film sets, I've done my own film as well. I love collaborating with people, so it's just, you know, like everyone else, like I love talking to filmmakers, and that's my passion, is kind of trying to help people progress with their projects and enable them to make them bigger and wider and more kind of global. Okay. So at the moment, while I'm here in New Zealand, I'm working for the Film Commission in the development role, and I look at all the projects that come in for development, both for documentary and feature films. So, you know, we have 6 rounds a year, and you can apply with both scripted and documentary at the same time. And on average, we have between 10 and 25. So a lot of projects to read, a lot of follow-up, a lot of conversations with filmmakers, and I try to inspire people to think big, because the market is very competitive right now, and so I'm always on the other end of the phone or on email, and if filmmakers want to meet, happy to meet at any time. And yeah, I push for quality, so that's kind of what I do.
Great,
yeah.
Thanks. Phil?
Hi, I'm Phil. I own Vendetta Films and Vendetta Productions. We're obviously a local distributor that acquire films for Australian and New Zealand distribution, as well as producing our own films, which is such an easy process the way you describe it. I'm also on the Vista Foundation, which is a charitable trust that tries to educate filmmakers on how to make their films more commercial, I guess. This year we sponsored the 48-hour film festival and things like that. So I'm pretty passionate about the New Zealand film industry and documentary in particular.
In terms of Film Commission, it's pretty straightforward. It's one of the easiest, actually, delivery schedules I've seen. So it's everything on a hard drive. You need, of course, a copy of the film in high res, and then you need a trailer, of course, at least 20 stills, poster, you know, logos, treatments, the whole text, either the script or, you know, the treatment, any subtitles, different languages, if you've got different languages. And you have export of a DVD file. Press kit, do you guys know what is EPK? Very important for festivals, very important for distributors around the world because they get to know your film basically, essentially from the minute you started it till the end, what happened, and then they come up with marketing ideas. They send it to like journalists and television stations and so on. So everyone needs that document in order to extract what is the most unique or important thing about your movie to tell the world. So I think it's a very important thing. People forget about it, and we often fall into like situations where if you don't have an EPK, you've got nothing to market, and it's, you know, filmmakers trying to scramble something in the last one day. It's not good enough. So it's something that you start preparing as you begin the shooting process. Music cue sheets. Of course, music is very important in documentary, so make sure you clear those rights for the world, for all the rights that you need to access, like TV, VOD, theatrical if you want to go theatrical, festival rights. Of course, if you don't have all the money, then consider what you need the most and then clear those rights on it.
Would you recommend hiring a lawyer to help you do that?
Not necessarily. Depends on, of course, the level of budget. Sometimes you can go directly to music companies and ask, you know, for fees, and you can negotiate. You can involve lawyers. It will cost you a lot more. So if your producer knows, or if you are the producer, then there's a lot of information online, or ask maybe more senior EPs to come on board to help you with like the very heavy contracting that you might need. But there's a lot of options with music, and it's about reaching out as early as possible, because music to clear takes sometimes years, and I'm not joking. It can take a long time. A DVD, a copy of the film on a DVD or Blu-ray, and hard copies of the posters, and of course a DCP of the master. So that's pretty much a list about delivery. Do you have anything different to that? Or?
Anyway,
yeah.
I mean, obviously, as a distributor, we would expect at least that. Most films that we buy have been funded by the Film Commission, so we get all of that. But I think the earlier you get with a distributor, publicity can really happen during the filming of the actual project. So we like to get involved as early as possible and then get our publicists to get some media stories that this is coming, and just generate a little bit of pre-interest, which also helps engage the audience later. And the stills, honestly, the biggest bane in my life is that people spend nothing of their budget on actual still photography, and it is really hard to market a film without it. And so I urge you, hire a proper photographer or a talented friend if you haven't got the budget, not doing it on your iPhone. It's really, I can't stress how important it is. And the other most important thing from our perspective is a trailer. And again, we would get involved early in the process. I've got a couple of trailers to show later on. The difference between ones we were involved with and ones we weren't. And absolute, there was a statistic a few years ago, it's probably a bit out of date now, but basically 40% of people made their decision on going to see a film based on the trailer. So all the rest of the marketing is all well and good, but people getting engaged with your trailer as early as possible is going to get the demand for the film to be seen.
Great. Like basically from scratch, like how would they go about finding the distributor? What's the first point of contact?
Me?
Yeah.
Not me. Don't contact me. No, seriously. Yeah, I mean, basically you've got to look at the list of New Zealand distributors, and there is obviously Australian companies on that list, and there's some bigger, some smaller. It's trying to find, how how do I put this nicely? I've been told I have to be positive, so I'll do my best. Too often, producers are so grateful that someone has made an offer for their film. It doesn't matter who they are, they've made an offer, and they may not be the right partner for that film because everybody has got different strengths and weaknesses. And one distributor I can think of in New Zealand who will remain nameless, he'll basically sign anything and hope that one of them works, and maybe doesn't give it the same love and attention. Equally, some of the Australian companies, it's on a list of 50 films. So if you're confident in your documentary, then that's fine. But if you want someone that's going to love it, nurture it, there's smaller distributors or, bigger ones. It just is finding the right one. Don't just grab the first one so your funding application can go on with, I have a distributor, that's prepared to pay an MG.
So what are some KPIs for, like, if you're talking to different distributors as a documentary filmmaker, what should people look out for? Like, how do you know when you've found the right one?
But what are they committing to? I mean, if they're just saying, oh, I'll give you 10,000 or something for your film so you can apply the film commission, for instance, then what is that against? What are you going to do for my movie? Like, are you going to take it to the cinema? How many screens? What do you see the potential of it in terms of making profit, or, what is the P&A you will spend? And what kind of...
Does everybody know what P&A is?
Print and advertising. So it's like the fees you pay for the digital copy of the movie that you will screen in the cinema, and advertising. And advertising is probably the most costly, I would say. And so, yeah.
So the distributor handles all that side.
Yep.
Yes, distributor handles all that side, and also, of course, they have expenses. So how much are the expenses? What is the cap? Where will you stop paying for their expenses, and what they will do in return for your film. So it's about the strategy. What is their plan for not just theatrical? Theatrical is just one way of distributing a movie, but after that, the life after that, because they will probably take it for at least 10 years, maybe 15, So your movie will be signed with a distributor for a long time. You will not see it back. So you want to know what they will do in those 15 years for you, so you can see some return as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you've got to have some chemistry with the distributor, I guess, that gives you confidence in them that they are actually going to be passionate about your film, and it's not just another one on the slate. The Film Commission generally require a minimum guarantee to help the funding process. It shows that the distributor has some confidence in the project. And then that all goes into the pot of funding. Don't think you're going to get a check.
Yeah.
So the distributor will predominantly recoup the P&A first. So if we spend $50,000 marketing a film, we want that money back from the proceeds. Then we will recoup our minimum guarantee, and then we will share whatever's left ongoingly with the film, or we'll give it to the Film Commission, and then they'll distribute it to the stakeholders.
So when the Film Commission has funded a doco to the tune of, say, 900,000, which is quite common, when does the Film Commission, well, Herbs, for example,
Yeah.
when does the Film Commission get their 900,000 back?
We are quite flexible because we understand that other financiers, let's say private investors, are more important, meaning we're a government agency, so of course we can come in last in some cases, while other investors that may put like 200,000, let's say, they may want to be up first because that's their private money and they've invested that for a reason and so on. So it's up to the negotiation between the filmmakers and the financiers on board.
New Zealand film, for us as a distributor, is the best film for us to distribute in terms of the recoupment waterfall. What we get from the Film Commission is a thing that we don't get on international films, which is a 30% distribution fee. So we are getting 30% of the revenue of the theatrical before any recoupment. So that's really unusual, and people have said, why is that I think. Well, trust me, when you get rung up at 6 o'clock at night by a producer saying, my friend's just been into the warehouse ring Diora and there isn't a copy of the DVD on the shelf. True story. We earn that 30% when we take it because you guys are all here, you're all passionate, you want to know what's happening about your film, so we have to do a crap load more work than what we do from buying an international film. So that happens first, and that's bad for the filmmakers, to be honest. Very bad.
Well, I mean, it's the reality. Actually, 30% is not something crazy, I'll say. It's actually quite common with the bigger distributors. If you are working worldwide, if your movie is international and you get picked up by a major company or a theatrical distributor in France or Germany, they'll pay the big bucks, but they will give you the big terms, you know, meaning that the recruitment you would, or the kind of overages that you would expect, you need to make significant profit in order to get a penny back. So they'll be very aggressive, and they'll ask for 20 years. They won't get you a movie for 10 years or 15. They'll be very aggressive, but because they're paying big money and they'll spend massive P&A, and you know that's their investment. So
it gets your film out there, but it doesn't necessarily earn you.
no.
Theatrical, I mean, that
That's
fee.
theatrical, yeah.
Just going back to the minimum guarantees, can we get an idea of what the range looks like in terms of value? I guess like being like not knowing how things work. Is it $1? Is it $1,000? Is it $10,000? Well, how does it look like?
We've seen MGs between 10,000 for documentaries I'm talking about, to 100, 150. That's for Australia and New Zealand, and they're crossed, meaning all the expenses, everything, all the P&A, it's crossed against each other. So the two territories come together, which means you guys, I don't know how you work, but the ones I've seen...
Not all across.
Not all crossed. That's good.
No, that's bad for a distributor.
Yeah. But it's bad for the filmmaker as well, because they may never see a penny. If the film is successful, let's say here in New Zealand, but it's not successful in Australia, all your overages that you earn here go against the expenses in Australia. So it depends on the deal, but...
We had an interesting example of Tickled, for example. We paid an MG of, I think, 25,000 for that, David Ferry's film, and we lost money in New Zealand and paid overages from Australia randomly, which is the complete wrong way around that we would expect, but we invested heavily in the New Zealand theatrical, and nobody came. Well, nobody came, but not enough people came. And then in Australia we spent nothing, and every festival showed it, and we got great money from it. So we were unrecouped in New Zealand, but paying overages, which sticks in
So
my
how did you
craw.
come up with that? How did you come up with that 25k figure?
That's basically as a percentage of the budget, I think, from memory. I mean,
So it's always aligned to the budget, in relation to the budget.
it also is aligned to the competitive landscape. I mean, if you've got Foyer, for example, or something like that, then you can start talking to the bigger distributors. Like that got released by Sony Pictures in New Zealand, and they would have 100 grand to them is like not that much, and they'll put it out on 100 screens. And I bet the filmmakers never sort of been averages on that one, even though it did over $1.5 million, I think, at the box office, something like that. So yeah, it's competitive landscape. If the doc seems like it's very, very commercial, get competing offers, because you know you might actually get a bidding war going, and the higher your MG, the better chance you've got of getting it made and getting some money yourself.
And what about for like lower budget? Like
We've done some for 10, we've done some for free.
Yeah.
We've taken it with no MG. And then there's other ones that we funded all the development for and stuff like that. So it's every project's different, basically.
Sales agents are basically the middleman, if you want to call them, between the distributor and you guys, the producers and the filmmakers. They take usually the world to represent the worldwide rights of your movie, to represent it to different territories. And against that, of course, they earn a fee. It's a percentage of their sales. So let's say, depends on the company. Some companies charge very little, like the bigger ones, like Story Canal and so on. They charge charge, and depends on the documentary and depends on the filmmakers. If it is David Ferry, maybe they'll charge less. If it is someone unknown, they may charge more because the risk is bigger. So you kind of evaluate the theme, the genre, the filmmakers. You evaluate the whole project when you're deciding on how much you take a fee, or when you make a proposal to a filmmaker. So that could be between, I've seen deals for 5%, and I've seen deals for 25%. That is the fee that the sales agent keeps from every sale they make on your movie.
But do the sales agents pay fees to the filmmakers to acquire the film?
Not always. So that's something that...
Not often.
Not
now.
Yes, not often. So some filmmakers, of course, especially with the Film Commission, who encourage to have an MG from a sales agent, will go to those sales agents that offer MGs. Meaning they'll give you, let's say, another 30,000 or 100,000 against your movie, but then they will have, again, higher percentage fee. They will have higher, market fees that they will want to recoup. If you need to deliver it to the Film Commission to get the money for financing, you may have to do it. But sometimes it's not in your interest, I think, as a filmmaker, to go with those deals because they basically know that the reason they offer those MGs is because they know that's the minimum they can sell your movie for, if that makes sense. So they know they'll recoup that 100 grand, no problem, because they'll sell it to a VOD platform somewhere.
Or airlines.
Or airlines or something, So they give you the minimum, then they know they will definitely sell it for. But the bigger agents like Mr. Smith will not offer any MGs because they simply invest more in terms of PR and their own resource to kind of make it a global, a must-see, must-want, must-buy kind of film. So they're kind of like a machine. They have loads of people working and everyone is very specialized. They take it on early on and they come up with a marketing campaign together and everything is kind of aligned. You talk to them all the time and they're very much involved. And for instance, The Elephant Queen, which I worked on one of the last films when I was at Mr. Smith, we took it on board because nobody else would take it because it was one of those like 10 million kind of very ambitious documentary by these British filmmakers. And I knew them back in HanWay when 10 years ago they tried to make that movie, but they couldn't because nobody would invest that kind of money. So they made it with other resources like other private investment. And they came to us and they had a rough cut. I mean, a very, very big rough cut. And so we came in and we kind of saw it, we saw the potential, we started, we didn't have any MG to put in or any more money so they can finish it. But what we did say is that we'll, cut a very good trailer, which we did, and we went to the market and I think it was AFM, the first market, we introduced it. It got sold to Amazon for like millions, absolutely millions. So it's just one of those things that if you're with the right agent, they have the right contacts, they have the right, they know how to open that door for you. And, they can make something happen a lot easier without stress, without, you're a buyer that is looking for documentary films to fill your network or, fill your slate or whatever. You go there, you probably buy 5 or 6 movies. But if you are Amazon or Netflix and you're looking for that kind of event documentary, you go to Lionsgate, you go to Mr. Smith, you go to Annapurna, you go to like those big, massive companies that have studio backing behind them and they can talk to a level of a studio film, So it really depends on what's your movie, who's the target audience, how do you market it, and you get that by having the agent do that for you. So it's about, because they've been doing it for years, so they know how to, basically sell your movie.
So for these guys here, what advice would you give to them if they're going to approach Yellow Affair or Annapurna? What kind of materials do they need? What kind of content?
Well, all the agents right now are desperate for material, so that's good because there's demand. But on the other hand, there's more material out there now than ever. Meaning, so they're all looking for something that they can sell. Essentially, it's like, what is the hook that they can sell to a broadcaster or to a VOD platform like a streamer or a theatrical distributor. So basically be clear with the genre, which is the number one thing I'll probably say. A lot of filmmakers get confused with genre, but that is number one. If you don't know your genre, then the agent doesn't know how to sell it, then they don't know how to pitch it to a distributor, the distributor doesn't know how to sell it to the theatres, it just becomes a complete mess, and then the movie doesn't end up anyway because even the audience is confused, what is the film actually about? So if you know your genre and what is it you're trying to say, then everyone will go on that journey and prepare the materials alongside to match that vision. So yeah. I mean, at the Film Commission, we push for, now if you're coming for financing, so not for development, but if you're coming for financing at the Film Commission on a feature film documentary, you will need to have a distributor from New Zealand, and you will need to have a sales agent on board before you come in and ask for that money.
So this is for production funding?
For production funding, yeah. So you should already know what your movie is. You should already have gone out and pitched it to a lot of financiers and sales agents, and someone should have picked it up.
How do people do that? How do they pitch the sales agent?
So, I mean, going to markets, going to events like you guys organize, great events, going to MIF, which is in Australia in August. It's not that far. The Film Commission can assist some people to go there by travel grants as well. So come to us if you wanted money to go there and cover your expenses like flights and accommodations and stuff like that. I think that is number one. You as a producer and filmmaker is to kind of go out to things, to events like that, markets like that, not only just to kind of start pitching and learn about the world out there, but just to see the competitions, to see what's the bar, and to kind of educate yourself to what do you need to do in order to achieve a global documentary. What it takes as well in terms of finance, and start relationships, because at the end of the day, the sales agents, what they're good at, and that's why you hire them, is because of their built-in relationships that they've done over 30 years. Like my boss at Mr. Smith, David Garrett, everyone loves him because he's called a veteran, you know. They trust him because everything he brings on the market always delivers. And so buyers from around the world will buy anything he brings to the table. I'm not joking. I mean, even before reading the script, yeah. So sometimes they don't even have time to read the script or to view the materials properly. They're like, oh yeah, how much do you want? And the deal is done in 10 minutes. So it's just, that's what a sales agent can do, is basically give that trust that you can't, because they don't know who you are.
But equally, again, it's finding the right sales agent.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'll give you an example again with Tickled. Film Commission, I don't know if you still have that deal with NPI or whoever it is.
No, not really. Yeah. So
It was basically a horror genre company, and they couldn't find a sales agent, they were paying MG, they would pay an MG. And Tickled went to them, and I got rung up from the CEO of the Film Commission when he was in Sundance, the year that was for sale, and said, I need to buy you out of your rights for Australia and New Zealand. And I went, really? He said, Netflix have offered this global deal, it means everyone's out, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, are you going to make me a profit on my investment or else? And then, well, no, we'll just give you your money back. I said, no, sorry. And anyway, I was seen a bit of an asshole because I wouldn't do that. But as it turned out, MPI then passed it on to another sales agent, Magnolia, who is a very good sales agent, and they sold it to HBO, and they sold it all around the world, and everybody made a lot more money. So that was an example where, gee, we're desperate, someone's prepared to give us money, we've got to take it, you're done. And it's having that someone that's passionate, and that's part of the problem with documentary sales agents as well. They're generally specialist apart from the likes of Dog Wolf and Doc and Film and stuff like that, a lot of them don't even have stands or rooms at the meeting things. and they're some of the best connected people, but it's how do you get to them from your perspective, and that's why when you go to Cannes or to
37 South,
South,
yeah.
one of the big mistakes I get a bit frustrated about in Cannes, for example, is the amount of local producers that want to have meetings with us in Cannes. Are you serious?
I know.
We're there to...
You're here. Get them here.
Yeah,
Don't go to Cannes to meet distributors from
and
New
it's
Zealand.
easy, because it's easy, it's
Yeah.
comfortable, you don't have to
Yeah.
get out of your comfort zone, and the Film Commission doing an amazing event towards the end of the festival as well, so don't leave too early, where they have, like, I call it speed dating with, you know, banks, financiers, sales agents, and you just have a nice dinner, lunch, I mean, and it's really productive, and you get contacts, it's building that network, but you don't make meetings with the local distributors. We won't be offended, trust me.
The Film Commission is present. There's a lot of events we organise for producers that go from New Zealand. We help connect them with the right people. So if you go in there, we're there to support you guys. That's our role. So don't be shy to ask. It's also like just get your product ready, be ready, because those questions, really hard questions, will be thrown at you by the people that you'll meet. And if you don't know the answers, then you've lost the opportunity.
Say you had a short that you're sort of hoping as a proof of concept, you've got it at a festival, how would you package that in a way? Like you're hoping to make a longer one.
So we get a lot of applications for development which come in exactly at that stage. So they've made a short film, very successful, gone to festivals, and then on the back of that they've now developed a treatment, a feature film treatment. Do you guys know what a feature film documentary treatment is? Which is beat by beat the storyline of what your documentary is like and will be like. It's not a one-page synopsis. And I'm telling you this because I deal with filmmakers that apply for development all the time with documentary, and I would say 90% of the time we get a one-page synopsis and they expect 20,000 against that. And it's like, well, that doesn't tell me anything about the movie. Like, I get the gist of it, but I don't understand who's the subject that I'll follow and why, and what is the genre exactly. Like, is it kind of a poetic one, or is it more observational documentary, and where it will lead to? What's the drama? What's the conflict? So, I would say spend time on developing the treatment before coming for development for us. And I'm talking about at least 5 to 10 pages, ideally. And it's literally breaking down the storyline by scenes. And so what is the first scene we'll see, and how it will unfold, what's at stake, what's the conflict, what's the drama, why am I going to watch until the end, what will happen. And so the more information you give us, the Film Commission, the better, because we send everything, your applications, to external assessors. So they're looked by experienced filmmakers in the documentary world, meaning they've done it at least 10 times before that. So they want to know everything, not just about you and your short film that you've made, and they want to watch it, of course, as a proof of concept. But they really need to know everything, like what's your audience and why you're targeting that audience. That's another very important thing that you as filmmakers need to start thinking before you even start writing anything. It's like, who's the audience? Is it your mum, or is it your cousin, or is it all of New Zealand, and why? And is it international, and how are you going to get them? Or is it young kids? And if it is like young teenagers, just have a think, how do they access material? Do they actually pay $10 to go to the cinema, or do they watch it on YouTube and adapt to that audience? So if it is like those kind of kids, maybe it's not bad to think about the format at that stage. Like, is it really aimed to be at a documentary for cinema, or is it aimed to be a web series, which is much more accessible for that target audience? And it's not a bad thing. I think right now we have so much money available for different formats of filmmaking, which is fantastic. So just embrace it, and it still keeps you earning money, and it still keeps you busy and creative in any way. is just about how can I get my film to be seen by as many people as possible, and that, you know, if they don't go to the cinema, then I'm going to go and get them over there because I know how to do that. Because Instagram now do it, you know, they also have short form material, and Facebook, and they're all doing it. So there's lots of avenues to distribute as well.
If you want to elevate your project, get an experienced producer if you can find one. That will,
it lowers the risk for the financiers. That's what it is. And you want to give people
peace of
security.
mind.
Yeah,
It gives them peace of mind that it's not going to go off tangent. And the film commission we're working on in our productions company is so freaking crazy. They paid us money to make a proof of concept because they didn't get it, but they believe in the filmmaker and they believe in the producers, sorry. And I still don't think they'll get it when they see the proof of concept, to be honest. But we've now got a calling card to all the sales agents as well, because when you look at it on paper, it's like
every single project, every single application got sent to assessors. And they are with a lot of experience in documentary filmmaking or producing or financing and selling and all that. And they look at everything you submit. So they look at the synopsis, your producer's notes, director's notes, vision, trailer or previous work that you wanted to submit as proof of concept. And then they give us a report, and the report literally analyzes everything you've submitted, from strengths, weaknesses, is the story clear, is it not, and then at the end of the day they say, oh, an audience engagement plan. So we encourage, when you apply for development, even at that stage, we ask you, the filmmakers, to give us a plan of how you're going to reach your audience and who's that. So they look at everything, and of course, they know the market better than you guys, and they know how crowded everything is. So they come up with comparisons, and the reports are usually spot on, 100%, because they literally pull it apart, and then they vote at the end of the day to say yes or no. And out of those 15
projects at that stage that have distribution attachment or sales agent attachment?
No, not for development. For development, you don't need a distributor or sales agent attached. All you need is to have the warranties in place, meaning if you have let's say, a person of interest that it's your main subject that you're following, let's say a sports star or something, for an example, we need to have that in writing that he's agreed to be part of that documentary, otherwise there is no documentary. So that's pretty much the only thing we ask from a development point of view. But a lot of filmmakers don't have it, so they apply without something like that, and their application looks really weak, because at the end of the day, if you don't have the subject, then how do we know that that documentary is actually going to happen? Because that person is so famous now, or will be tomorrow, that may turn around and say, oh, I don't want to be part of it anymore, and then all that money has gone to waste. So it's about, again, giving us the warranties that we need, that the investment is going to lead to something and it's not going to go down the drain. But out of those 15 projects, only 4 got the 2 yeses from assessors, meaning they said these are definitely with potential not only here locally but international, and the applications were spot on, thorough and everything. The others got, I can't remember how many ended up in the yes, no, but there was quite a big chunk, because there were very big filmmakers and producers who were very, very upset that they didn't get it. For that same reason, because their argument is, but I'm still developing it, that's why I'm coming to you, so how can you reject me the money, considering, I am who I am? But it's not about that, it's about you're competing against so many other projects at the same time. We only have a limited amount of money, and I know it sounds like a numbers game, but it is, and it's business as well. Is that you're up against each other, and if you don't have the application perfect and reading in your mind what it is, even if it goes somewhere else when you start shooting, of course things happen all the time, but if you don't have it on paper in advance, then the assessors will not get it, and you will be penalized for that.
Do you find that there's quite a difference between the global market and the New Zealand audience, like New Zealand audience, global audience? Like even just knowing films that like Tickled, no one's interested here, but it's successful in America and suddenly New Zealand's interested in it again. Is there kind of...
The only example I can think of that a film has performed, and the subject matter was American, so it's not surprising. But if it isn't going to perform here, it's certainly not going to perform overseas. I mean, that's almost a written guarantee for me that, not quite, but just about. I mean, and I know I have arguments with the Film Commission about this sort of thing too, because they're saying, well, it needs to have a global reach, but you name me one that has not worked here apart from Tickled. Or one that, like Scott Dixon is another example. He's massive in America, so it's likely to work there. It did nothing here. So yeah, I would be looking for New Zealand story first and making it, and then people are interested. I mean, I'm sure you all watch docs about people from Bulgaria or wherever, you know, like depends if it's interesting. I mean, there's a film coming out shortly called Citizen K about the guy from Russia. You know, I'm really interested to see that, you know. There was another one, Moldova, Indiana. I mean, do we really care about Indiana? But if this film is compelling here, it's going to have an audience. That's my own opinion.
So territories, it's you sell, let's say, UK or Germany, France, to different distributors in each country. You can sell a number of territories to one distributor, like E1 for instance. You can sell five or six territories in one go, or the same for Lionsgate, or you know, you can sell the whole world to one streaming platform like Netflix or a studio like Fox. So it really depends on the film itself, depends on what's on offer, depends if you've got a bidding war or not. If your material is really good and appealing to as many people as possible, then the best thing that can happen for your project is having a bidding war, and it's happened a lot. And that's when you have every single, let's say in one territory, I've had experience where in Korea there's about, I don't know, 50 distributors, I'm not kidding. And each one wanted that film. There were people queuing outside the door to come and give me an offer. This was for days on end. And so that's the best way scenario for your film, because the price goes up. Of course, the terms are more favorable for the filmmaker and so on. But then in the end, we ended up selling the movie to Netflix. So it was a wasted time for everyone. But, you know, it's just one of those things that when you look at collectively all the offers from around the world, and you as a filmmaker have an obligation to your investors. I mean, here financing works very differently to the rest of the world. So it's very different to the way I'm used to in Europe, because you get the majority of your money from the Film Commission, and they're nice. They don't chase you. They don't come with the solicitors behind and the banks and screaming and shouting for their money back. But in the UK, my experience is that the filmmaker is up against a lot of pressure to return all that investment for every single person that has come in and put in money. So they want the best deal in order to return to everyone. And then, of course, if the film is profitable, great, everyone's happy, there's a party. But meaning that you take in collectively all the offers, you think what is the best for the film and the future of it, and then you make that decision. And sometimes you go with Netflix purely because they make the best offer. It doesn't mean it's the best for the film, because it just ends up on streaming. It doesn't have any other life. It doesn't have any other further money earning possibilities, because they keep the universe, and they keep a lot of, you know, they take it off shelf, as they say, for many, many years.
Do they do that, like, without exception? Like global rights, no matter what?
Yeah, they will try and do that. Now, in the case where the film may have been sold in advance to other distributors, they'll try and buy those rights as well. So we've done that. We've renegotiated deals with distributors like Phil and said, we need to break that deal, really sorry, but Netflix offered 5 million, and how can you reject that?
What markets outside of Australia and New Zealand do you think are the best for features or any kind of documentary made in this part of the world? And I guess there's no one answer to that, but perhaps you could give us a broad idea whether South America versus the UK and so on. And the second question I have is, apart from distributing in the local market, who should you approach to get distribution in other markets? Should you go to people in London or New York or where?
Your best chance of distributing your movie is in English-speaking territories, and that's a massive market. And now, because of course the streaming market has access to the world without the need of subtitles or dubbing or anything like that, your market is even expanded because the world speaks English. That's great. That's amazing for you guys. So the world is your oyster, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to access to the territories, you can either go directly to broadcasters or streaming networks yourself or distributors yourself, or you get a sales agent, basically someone who knows how to do it for you. And you don't have to worry about selling, to those guys.
Unless you're Taika or something
Unless
like
you're
that.
Taika, but yeah.
Get a sales agent, that's all I can. They will give, they're worth their 15 to 25% fee. It'll save you a hell of a lot of time and a frustration, and they'll be generally brutally honest with you as well, and tell you,
Would they cover the cost of subtitling if it's not English?
It's really interesting. We're just we were talking about an international sales agent for repeat attenders, for example, and they pulled out because we wanted to cut a new trailer or something, and they no, they're not contribute.
Do you have any advice for, selling a film that's in a foreign language? For example, like Te Reo Māori?
I know one.
Well, RA is obviously one big one in America. That's Ava DuVernay's film company. It's called ARRAY.
And someone from RA is going to be at the inclusion summit.
There will be, so Tilane Jones is coming from that company here for next week. So that's a good opportunity to reach out, or, I've been told they're very approachable, so you just know them. The other entry would be Imaginative, the festival. They have more sources, I would say, or contacts of different platforms that kind of distribute Indigenous cinema, and access to those kind of festivals as well. So I'll talk to them. The other option is come and talk to us at the Commission. We have Karen Baktibo, who's our Rotakiri development person, so she can help you and guide you and connect you with all those people as well. So.
You see development pathways for art house experimental documentary of the kind that Creative New Zealand used to fund that wouldn't be appropriate for event? I'm thinking of films like On an Unknown Beach, for instance, which there would have been no point in trying to get a local distributor for, but that are shooting for like the True False CPHP, POX, those kind of international festivals, which is another way, of course, for films to develop a life. But I'm just wondering if there is even a development pathway for those films currently, apart from self-funding.
It's a genre, isn't it? It's part of one of the documentary styles that you can make a movie. It's having an art house documentary, so it's about being clear on how you're going to achieve that and what it is exactly that you're going to tell us and why. So when the assessors get the application, they get they get a feel, they get the tone, they get the style of it, and so it's not just one-page summary to tell me, oh, it's going to be an experimental. I can't tell you what it is until I get the money. It's not going to work.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But my understanding was that for local documentaries, there had to be a theatrical distributor.
That's for financing. So for development, you don't need the theatrical yet.
Right.
But it's but if you come in for financing and you ask from the commission for, let's say, $200,000 or $500,000,
production funding.
production funding, then we will want that guarantee that it will end up in cinema. Yeah.
Whereas development is like 25k.
It's up to 20 actually. It's only up to 20. Yeah.
Right.
It's again because the Film Commission has only 12 million a year for production and development, and
For everything, not
for
just
everything. Yes. And on average, our target is to have 10 films. Now, some films apply for 500, some apply for 2.5, which is our max. And we don't encourage that because you won't get it. But even 2 million, as you can imagine, it takes a massive load of our budget, which leaves very little to spread it around across the year. So it's highly competitive. Right now, we have a production financing, and I'm not kidding, we have 4 documentaries and 2 dramas, all competing for the same pot that we have for this round, and there's going to be some very disappointed people. And they all have all the documents ready. Everything is now, all the applications are fantastic, and so it's going to be a very tough call. If because the Film Commission is not the only place you can get money, and it's not, and it shouldn't be. And you as a filmmaker, don't limit yourself to like one box, because film is film. But at the end of the day, now there's so many amazing filmmakers telling incredible stories through other avenues, and so if you can find, an outlet for your material to be seen, just go and do it, because it will lead to the next project and it will open the doors for the next thing. And so don't stop yourself just because the Film Commission doesn't have enough money, which we don't. So it's, New Zealand On Air have amazing, so much more money than us, and you can have so many other different web series and different other things that you can do. So.
Is there a local sales agent that works with Amazon Prime, Netflix, etc., instead of having to go through an LA-based aggregator?
Even if we have sold stuff to Netflix, for example, we haven't sold enough to Amazon yet, but you do generally have to go for an aggregator.
And most of them seem to be based in the States.
Yeah.
Thank you to the New Zealand Film Commission, New Zealand On Air, and the University of Auckland for helping us with the clinics and supporting